Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be talking about Tiny Pop and the state of children's TV channels, at least here in the UK, generally. Now I know I'm a bit late to this broke sort of about a week, slightly more ago. There's been a lot going on the channel, but I'm finally glad to be getting to it now. So you may have seen across various outlets that Tiny Pop, which is the sister channel to the main Pop channel, the main Pop brand if you like, is going to be ceasing its television operations in March of this year, 2024. Now, this seemingly came quite out of nowhere, like there'd been no preamble to this, at least not publicly. It surprised a lot of people. Tiny Pop is, I guess, in a similar vein to like what CBeebies is for the BBC, aiming content at really young children, preschool children. So a very valuable resource, you know, especially for parents who want to showcase programming to their young kids that is suitable, appropriate, and ultimately entertaining. So this article, coming from the ever-reliable RxTV, so it says, popular Freeview Kids channel switches to online only. Children's channel, Tiny Pop, will be solely available via online and streaming platforms from Wednesday, the 20th of March. Viewers will be able to watch Tiny Pop via the Pop Player or via streaming channel providers including Samsung TV Plus, NetGem and LG channels. The move ends traditional broadcasts through Freeview, Freesat, Sky and Virgin Media. So, pretty big shift. We'll break down what this all means, but let's get into the meat and potatoes and see what this has to say. Narrative Entertainment, the broadcaster behind the largest commercial kids group in the UK, has today announced it will take preschool channel Tiny Pop fully online from the 20th of March 2024, so that's not far away at all, little over a month. The move follows the successful launch of the channel on streaming platforms in September, with sister channel Pop currently the #1 ranking kids fast channel on Samsung TV Plus, and Tiny Pop consistently being amongst the top 3 best performing kids channels in the service. It's home to popular TV shows and characters such as the Cookie Monster's Foodie Truck, Hello Kitty, Superstyle, and Masha and the Bear. Tiny Pop is available for free on fast platforms Samsung TV Plus, LG and NetGem, with the move creating further potential for digital expansion in the brand. So, we're seeing a lot of this amongst a lot of channels, not just kids stuff, where they're all moving to be more digital, more online based, you know, all these fast channels and stuff like that. And, I mean, at first, you know, when you read this might actually seem like, on the surface, a good move for Tiny Pop. I mean, if the main Pop brand, you know, the main Pop channel, as it says, that's currently getting #1 in terms of kids channels for the fast channel service on various providers, and if Tiny Pop is consistently ranking in the, you know, in the top, then why not move it to that way? So it details how they're available on the traditional platforms at the moment. Again, this is until the 20th of March, so you can get it on Freeview in some areas only, it says. I don't know which areas it would be, but some areas apparently. You can get it on Freesat, Sky Satellite, Sky Glass/Stream, and Virgin Media. But then it says, from the 20th of March, Tiny Pop will also continue to be available for free across all major TV platforms and mobile devices via the Pop Player app, home to over 1,000 hours of content, as well as hosting a range of preschool and bridge content on YouTube. So you can see that it will be available on LG channels, NetGem, the Pop Player, which is apparently available on Freeview Play, YouView, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, mobiles and tablets, Samsung TV Plus, also via Samsung mobiles and tablets, and also YouTube. So we're seeing this more, like companies putting their stuff on YouTube, which I don't think is inherently a bad thing. Seemingly they must make a decent amount of money from the advertising, otherwise I'd struggle to see why they'd want to put their content on YouTube. But the Pop Player seems to be like a good outlet if, you know, you're not moving towards this whole fast channel trend. So it is basically available as an app for your devices, but you can also watch it on the web as well. That is an option. And it just acts like any other streaming service. You know, it has all the content you'd expect from Pop, the stuff that broadcasts there, the stuff from Tiny Pop as well. And when you actually look at it, there's tons of stuff here to keep your children entertained. And, you know, not just the preschool children, stuff for the older kids as well. It has content from both Tiny Pop and Pop. The corporate comment says the network has increased its share of kids' commercial impacts year on year and now commands 46% of kids' commercial impacts overall, blimey, despite the challenging market as children's content viewing habits change. Shifting its strategy for 2024, Narrative will focus on expanding its digital offering to cater to a younger, digital or online audience. Francesca Newington, who's the director of the Pop channel, says, Tiny Pop's transition to fully digital kickstarts our 2024 strategy to focus specifically on the needs of our young audiences. With the rise in children aged 3 to 4 consuming content online, which is apparently according to Ofcom, our expansion onto platforms such as FAST has provided us with new opportunities to evolve and adapt to provide viewers with free access to exciting content wherever and whenever they choose to watch. So I'm all for making content more accessible, especially when it comes to kids TV, because I feel children's TV, at least here in the UK, has had quite the battering over the last few years for one thing or another. CITV went last year. I mean, I know that has now amalgamated into ITVX Kids on that service, but it doesn't have a traditional TV home anymore. CBBC, which has been long-standing for the Beeb, that's going online, as of, well, we haven't had an official date. The rumour is probably next year in 2025, but that will move soon. CBeebies is sort of, safe seemingly at the moment. Again, I think because it caters, like Tiny Pop does, to that preschool audience, and it's a very accessible channel. It's available on a lot of platforms, and it provides, trusted, reliable, and also very, educational content as well as entertaining content as well. But after hearing this, that Tiny Pop's going to be removed from traditional television operations, that makes me wonder, maybe CBeebies isn't as safe as we once thought. But I don't know, I think it's going to take quite some doing before the Beeb decide to carry CBeebies over online. But again, this move from Tiny Pop, I don't necessarily think it's all doom and gloom. Seemingly, with it ranking among the top 3 best performing kids channels on the service for like Samsung TV Plus and stuff like that, there's already clearly this transitional phase happening to consuming Tiny Pop in a different way to traditional television. So I think it moving solely online or digitally or whatever you want to call it, moving to this fast channel service is probably the way it needs to go. Having the Pop player is still an option though. That's a more traditional, you can access that as a website, you can access that via, downloading it to your phone, your tablet, your devices, anything like that. So you'll still be able to get that content even if you don't have access to fast channels. But I think as the years go on, more and more people are going to have access to that, and it's going to become less of a difficulty to access that content when it's not available in the traditional way. But this just made me think of like the slate of kids TV as a whole, because with television becoming more expensive to make, like the budgets or the expectations growing ever higher, and the wealth of content that's out there, not just from competing streaming platforms. I mean, let's just talk about YouTube. The amount of kids now who consume their content via YouTube, and they don't even have to be traditional programs in the sense of what you get on TV. These could just be little videos put up by a number of creators. And I know YouTube has had numerous problems with this in the past. Like, you had the whole Elsagate situation several years ago, and there's still debates, is YouTube quote unquote safe enough? I know they've introduced like YouTube Kids, they've introduced all these safeguarding measures to try and make sure kids aren't accessing unsafe or inappropriate content, but there's still that question of how safe really is it, because kids, maybe not the preschooler age, but certainly slightly older, the audience that Pop and CBBC aim for, they are not stupid. You shouldn't underestimate children, because they will find a way to access what they want regardless of whatever safeguards you might put in their way. You can make it more difficult, with parental controls and, all the supervision and all that sort of stuff. But I think with the wealth of technology that is available to children now, it's much easier to circumnavigate all of that. I mean, when I was a kid growing up in the 2000s, I didn't have access to a phone, let alone a smartphone. Smartphones didn't exist. I didn't have access to, I had very limited access to the internet, and that was heavily supervised, particularly when I was under the age of 13. That was heavily supervised, which I think in hindsight is the right thing to do. But now, a lot of kids under the age of 10 have mobile phones, and yes, I know there are settings where you can put them to like kids mode, so they have limited or no access to the internet at all, but that doesn't happen to everyone. And trust me, I mean, you'll remember like being at school, all it takes is for one person in your group to be like, I saw, this on YouTube or wherever, and then everyone wants to see it, and it's a domino effect. So I think Tiny Pop moving online again isn't necessarily a bad move. I think less children, let's be honest, I think we've seen it reported before, less children are consuming television in the traditional way, the way that I might have done several years ago. They are moving to that more online consumption, the streaming world. So if Tiny Pop is going to attract more of its audience via that route in the near future, then if it's going to help it thrive, I think that can only be a good thing. I mean, if you get as well, Tiny Pop as a channel, just to give you a bit of history on it, it launched in 2003, so it's over 20 years old. I mean, it was originally Pop Plus, then it became Tiny Pop a year later, so it's actually coming off the airwaves, the traditional airwaves, 20 years after it was rebranded to Tiny Pop, which is a bit of a shame. But 20 years for a channel, particularly one that just aims at preschool children, I think that's not a bad innings, we've got to admit. And it's always sad to see, a television channel shut down or transition away from the traditional means. But we're gonna see this more and more. You know, CITV was only the beginning, especially for kids TV. CBBC is yet to happen. Again, CBeebies is still a bit up in the air. Will that change? Will that remain the same? We don't know as of yet. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. But yeah, I think ultimately the state of kids TV, at least here in the UK, isn't in the healthiest spot, because again, in terms of like original content as well, I know original programming is still being made. I think CBBC is one of the last bastions to do that. You know, but a lot of it is imports now. I mean, there were always imports. Even when I was a kid, you had imported programming from the US or wherever, but you notice the ratio of that now has increased dramatically. So I don't think the actual state of UK kids TV is in the healthiest place right now. Once everything's kicked over to streaming, will it get reinvigorated? Who's to say? I hope it does. I really hope it does, because I think the television content available for children can be entertaining but also educational, and it can be inspirational as well. You know, you'll chat with many a person my age who can probably point to a certain program they watched as a kid that they found inspiring or impactful in some way, shape or form. But that is all for this video. I just wanted to have a little natter about that. But what do you think about Tiny Pop closing, at least on TV? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it. It does help us out. And subscribe as well. We'd love to have you aboard. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Stanton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, Liam Domain, Trev Hughes, AJ Mac 200017, Deck KP20, Simon Harrison, and Evan Hart 38, our AMTV staff members.